It began with a seemingly insignificant detail. A glance. Not the sort that captures your attention immediately, yet the sensation that envelopes you prior to your gaze. It was an intimate dinner, just the four of us gathered around the table. My partner, Mark. His closest companion, Jake. And Jake's girlfriend back then, a person I hardly knew. I found myself chuckling at something that didn't even warrant a smile, merely to occupy the quiet moments. As I turned, Jake's gaze met mine. Not swift, not informal. It felt as though he was observing me closely, truly observing. The manner in which my fingers danced upon the wine glass. The manner in which my smile vanished all too quickly. The manner in which my husband remained oblivious. Following dinner, Mark slipped away into his office as was his customary routine. Jake lingered in the shadows. "Are you all right?" he inquired gently, arranging plates alongside me in the kitchen. "Naturally," I replied. Yet my voice faltered. He refrained from pressing. He remained still. Yet, in that instant it dawned on me. He beheld it. The solitude I believed I had concealed so expertly. The fragment of my being that had dulled, unnoticed by those around me. As he departed that evening, he cast a single glance over his shoulder. It transcended mere politeness. It was an understanding. For the first time in ages, I felt seen. It unfolded gradually. In such a gradual manner, I might have feigned that it was inconsequential. Jake began to visit more frequently. Initially, it seemed logical. Since their college days, he and Mark had forged an unbreakable bond of friendship. They sat side by side, engrossed in the unfolding drama of the game. In the dim light of the garage, they shared laughter over cold beers. They conversed about their jobs, reminisced about the past, engaging in discussions that held no significance for me. However, after some time, he remained even in Mark's absence. "Is Mark delayed?" he'd inquire, leaning nonchalantly against the kitchen counter. "He always does," I would reply, a faint smile playing on my lips, and then we would engage in conversation. Concerning literature. Concerning the realm of music. Regarding the trivial matters that no longer arise with my husband. Initially, I overlooked just how simple it truly was. The way Jake absorbed every word. How his gaze remained steadfast, never wandering to his phone. He chuckled at the tiniest remarks I made, as if they held great significance. On one fateful evening, Mark called off dinner at the very last moment. Engaged with a client at the moment, Jake chose to remain regardless. He assisted me in arranging the table, assisted me in preparing a meal. As we settled into our seats facing one another, felt entirely right. It was a pleasant sensation, excessively pleasant. I found myself captivated by the movement of his hands. Firm, deliberate hands that operated with intention, in stark contrast to my husband's absent-minded movements. As I extended my hand toward the salt, our fingers lightly grazed against each other. It was merely a trifle, merely a brush. Yet my breath was stolen away. He observed. His gaze lingered on mine for a moment that stretched just a heartbeat too long. And then a smile graced his lips. Gentle, as if it were a hidden truth. As he departed that evening, he remarked, "Dining solo shouldn't be your only option." I wished to convey to him that solitude was not my companion, that I possessed Mark. Yet the words remained elusive. In that instant it dawned on me. Solitude enveloped me. Yet it was Jake alone who appeared to grasp the truth of it all. Mark had ventured beyond the confines of the city. Yet another journey for work awaits. Yet another vacant bed. I spent the evening in a tranquil manner, nestled on the couch with a book that remained largely untouched. The house was enveloped in an unsettling silence. At that moment, a gentle rap at the door. Gentle, somewhat reluctant. As I swung the door open, there stood Jake. "I just wanted to check in and ensure you weren't feeling utterly bored in his absence," he remarked, lifting a bottle of wine as if it were a peace offering. I ought to have declined. I ought to have mentioned that it was getting late. Yet I refrained. I welcomed him inside. We gathered around the dining table, the wine shared between us, engaging in a discourse that dances between the profound and the trivial. Seemed effortless, exceedingly simple. He recounted tales from their university years, reflecting on the mischief they often found themselves in. There was a moment when Mark teetered on the brink of expulsion. I found myself laughing more than I have in months. And then, the laughter gradually diminished, leaving only silence in its wake. Uncomfortable moments are absent. Unconstrained. Simply weighty. Our gazes locked. Embraced them. "You are worthy of so much more than this, you realize," he murmured. Softly. "What do you mean by more?" He paused before responding. Simply cast a glance in my direction. Truly observed. As my fingers curled around the stem of the glass. As my lips parted, it felt as though I was anticipating something elusive, something I dared not to name. Then his fingers grazed against mine. This time it's deliberate. Deliberate. Unhurried. I ought to have taken a step back. I did not. I allowed the moment to stretch out, savoring its essence. My heart raced with intensity. My breath is shallow. In that moment he leaned closer and murmured, "That's something I've had on my mind for quite some time." I refrained from inquiring about his meaning, for the simple reason that, at the core, I was already aware. The hour was late. It is now past the hour for a guest to remain present. The wine bottle teetered on the brink of emptiness. The flickering candles on the table cast a gentle glow, their wax melting slowly and gathering at the edges. Jake remained still, not making a move to depart. I did not request that of him. We found ourselves nestled together, much nearer than when we first began. So near that I could sense the warmth of his arm penetrating the delicate fabric of my blouse. Our conversations had come to a halt. Merely browsing. At one moment a nervous laugh escaped me, concerning the void. He inclined his head, observing me as if he were committing every detail to memory. "Your laughter feels like a secret," he remarked. The words resonated more profoundly than I had anticipated. "What is there to conceal?" I inquired, despite the fact that I was already aware. "How profoundly isolated you truly are." I gulped. Challenging. For the simple reason that it had never been spoken aloud. Not even I. And then it occurred. He lifted his hand, softly tucking a stray lock of hair behind my ear. It was merely a trivial detail. Incredibly gentle. Such caution. Yet it seemed to transcend that. Excessive. My breath hitched. His hand hovered close to my face. I remained steadfast, unwilling to retreat. I was unable to. The atmosphere surrounding us seemed vibrant, burdened by the unspoken truths we were never meant to voice. Then softly, "Command me to leave," he said. "Convince me you don't desire this." Yet the words remained unspoken, and that stillness resonated more profoundly than any response ever could. The stillness was excruciating. My heart raced, thumping in my throat, tingling in my fingertips, awakening every part of me that had long been dormant. Jake continued to observe me intently. Near. Uncomfortably near. "Anna," he murmured, as if my name were a delicate treasure. "My name is a reflection of my identity. Not sister." It lacked the courteous, playful inflection he adopted in Mark's presence. Only my name. Then his hand shifted. Gradually. With careful consideration. Until his fingers grazed my jawline. I ought to have intervened. I ought to have reminded him of my identity. Yet I did not. The way he touched me felt undeniably right. It felt essential. His thumb glided along the edge of my lips. Gentle. Experimentation in progress. And when I remained still, he leaned in closer. The kiss was gentle, lacking any force. It lacked any sense of urgency. The pace was languid, soft, as if he had been suppressing it for ages, reluctant to spoil the moment by hurrying through it. My body responded before my mind had the chance to catch up. I returned his kiss. I allowed my hand to linger on his chest, sensing the warmth radiating from him, the way his breath caught just inches from my lips. In that instant, the outside world faded away, leaving only the sanctuary of the room. Mark was absent. There will be no union. Freedom reigns. Merely two souls, submerged in a desire they ought to resist, and desiring it regardless. As he finally withdrew, he leaned his forehead gently against mine. "I apologize," he whispered softly. "I ought not to have." "Please don't," I murmured. "No need for apologies." For the first time in years I felt seen. I experienced a profound sense of recognition. I wished for it to continue endlessly. I found myself wide awake through the night. Not even a moment. I reclined in bed, gazing at the ceiling, the remnants of his presence lingering on my lips, the phantom of his touch brushing against my skin. Mark reached out in the late hours of the night. He inquired about my well-being. Fall was well. I agreed. My voice remains unwavering, as if nothing had transpired. Yet within the flames continued to rage. I convinced myself it was an error, that it would not progress any further. If only I had the power to command it. However, the following day, as I wandered through the rooms, I discovered the act of tidying up the house consuming my time. Igniting a wick, clad in the gentle embrace of a sweater I had neglected for months, the very one that brought forth a sense of beauty within me. I convinced myself it was merely a routine. Upon hearing the knock on the door, I acted without a moment's pause. I welcomed him inside. Jake lingered, uncertainty etched across his face. As if uncertainty loomed over him, casting a shadow on his expectations. "I don't belong here," he remarked. "I understand," I murmured. Yet I chose to stay put. Nor did he. Our conversation was sparse. No justifications existed. Authenticity reigns. We simply rediscovered one another. This time it's on the couch. His hands were more assertive, his voice resonated with depth, and his body leaned into mine as if he was certain I would not resist. And I did not. My desire for it surpassed even my need for air. In the aftermath he embraced me, not in the manner of a thief, yet as if a person had been poised to deliver it. "Anna," he whispered softly into my hair. "What is our course of action?" I remained silent. Due to my lack of knowledge, the weight of solitude had lifted, leaving only a sense of connection in its place. I found myself unwilling to relinquish that sensation. It no longer remained concealed in the shadows of the night. It began to infiltrate the hours. Even in Mark's presence. Jake arrived for dinner, just as he always did. Everything appeared unchanged. In the cozy living room they engaged in lively conversation about sports, the sound of beer bottles clinking softly on the coffee table. Yet I was aware. And he was aware. With each encounter of our gazes, a spark ignited within me. The hidden truth. The pain lingers. As Mark ventured into the garage to fetch another drink, I strolled by Jake in the hallway. He extended his hand, only for a brief moment. His fingers grazed the delicate curve of my back. So swift, such a delicate nuance. Yet it was as if a surge of electricity coursed directly through my being. My breath caught in my throat. He leaned in, his breath brushing against my ear, a warmth that sent shivers down my spine. "You look stunning this evening," he murmured. The rhythm of my heart thudded fiercely, echoing in my ears as if it might betray my presence to anyone nearby. Suddenly, Mark's voice resonated from the garage. "Are you all doing okay in there?" Jake took a step back, serene, as if nothing occurred. As Mark re-entered the room we exchanged smiles, masking any hint of trouble, as if we weren't mere moments from being discovered. That evening as I arranged the table, Jake's hand grazed against mine once more. Yet, on this occasion he remained still. He grasped it firmly, only for a fleeting moment, just long enough to serve as a reminder of his lingering presence. Yearning persists. What could possibly be more disheartening? I wanted that as well, even with my spouse just a room away, particularly at that moment. On a Saturday afternoon, Mark had returned to the comfort of his home. We had all gathered in the kitchen, crafting lunch as if it were just another ordinary day. Melodies drifting gently through the air, the aroma of garlic and herbs wafting through the atmosphere. Suddenly, the sound of Mark's phone pierced the silence. He ventured outdoors to answer the call. As the back door clicked into place, an unmistakable shift enveloped the house. Stillness. Electrified. As I stood at the counter, I meticulously sliced the vegetables with precision. Jake lingered beside me, his form relaxed against the edge, his hand hovering tantalizingly near mine. His gaze was palpable, lingering on me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. I focused intently on the cutting board before me. to behave as though I remained oblivious. Yet I did. His fingers grazed my hip, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver through me. Illumination. Experimentation in progress. I stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. He leaned in, his lips hovering tantalizingly close to my ear. "Last night keeps replaying in my mind," he whispered. My body tensed up, due to its sheer recklessness, for the simple reason that Mark stood just beyond the threshold. Yet, the words still sent a shiver coursing through me. I shifted my gaze, locking eyes with him, and that was the moment it all changed. He pressed his lips against mine. Swift, gentle, yet brimming with all that we had restrained throughout the morning. My knees nearly gave way. I returned his kiss, only for a brief moment. And then, the door groaned as it swung ajar. Mark's footsteps echoed nearer. We recoiled from one another. With a swift motion, Jake seized the knife and began to slice the vegetables, his actions seemingly unfazed by the world around him. I dried my hands on a towel, mustering a smile, striving to calm my breath. As Mark re-entered the room, he remained oblivious. He remained oblivious to the warmth blooming on my cheeks, or the manner in which Jake's jaw clenched while he averted his gaze. However, I observed. I became acutely aware of the rapid thumping of my heart. The thrill of nearly being discovered intensified my desire for him, beyond measure, and I loathed myself for it. Yet I was aware. I had no intention of halting. It had evolved beyond mere stolen touches. It transcended mere late-night whispers, fleeting kisses, and secretive encounters in the kitchen. A shift had occurred. Jake began to regard me in a new light. It wasn't as if I was merely an object of his desire, but it felt as though I was something he required. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we found ourselves nestled on the porch, enveloped in the tranquil embrace of the evening. Mark drifted into slumber within the confines of his home, the soft murmur of the TV providing a gentle backdrop to his weary mind. The atmosphere was pleasantly warm. Stillness. Jake offered me a glass of wine. Yet he did not recline in complacency. He remained nearby, uncomfortably near. "I can no longer feign that this is insignificant," he murmured softly. My breath hitched. "It must be nothing," I murmured. "There's no possibility of it being anything but that." Yet he merely shook his head. "It holds significance. You're aware of it. I am aware of it. And I don't believe I can return to merely being his friend. Not after this." My heart tightened. I understood precisely what he was conveying. These had transformed into enduring instances. They bore a weighty presence. They truly existed. I attempted to avert my gaze, yet he gently grasped my chin, compelling my eyes to lock with his. "Anna, being with you makes me feel alive in a way I haven't experienced in years. You can't honestly say you're not feeling it as well." Yet I found myself unable to do so, for I truly sensed it. Each utterance of my name sent a shiver through me. Each moment his hand hesitated, stretching into an eternity. Each night as I lay beside Mark, my eyes would close, yet my thoughts drifted solely to him. I remained quiet. In the stillness of my silence, he found his answer. He pressed his lips against mine. Not the hurried, pilfered variety, however, at a leisurely pace. Profound, as if it carried a weight neither of us could escape. As he withdrew, he leaned his forehead gently against mine. "I desire more than fleeting instances," he declared. "I desire you." In that moment it dawned on me that this was more than a mere affair. This was a decision made. A decision I found myself unprepared to confront, yet was already occurring each time I allowed him to make contact with me. It unfolded on a night that seemed unremarkable. Mark had succumbed to slumber once more at an early hour. A prolonged day stretches on, accompanied by yet another justification. The home lay in stillness, broken only by the gentle hum of the refrigerator and the delicate patter of rain on the windows. Jake had arrived ahead of time. He ceased to knock altogether. Upon laying eyes on him, I made no effort to feign uncertainty. I did not decline. I simply allowed him entry. And this time it unfolded without haste. It was not taken without permission. The pace was languid, gentle, as if two souls weary from evading reality had at last embraced the undeniable truth. He peeled away my layers as if I were a treasure, as though he sought to etch every detail of me into his memory. For the first time in years, a sense of shame about my body eluded me. I experienced a sense of being desired. We glided together in silence, our breaths intertwining, the rain's melody enveloping the unspoken words between us. And when it concluded, he lingered, not in a hurry to depart. He remained, embraced me. He ran his fingers gently through my hair and murmured, "I wish for this moment to last forever. I can no longer maintain the facade." In that instant I realized I couldn't either. It had transcended mere solitude. It transcended mere excitement, defiance, or the desire for ephemeral recognition. It was love pure and undeniable, the inappropriate type, a type that defies existence. Yet it existed, vibrant, and it signified that retreat was no longer an option. That night, I lay down beside my husband. Yet as I shut my eyes, it was not his visage that met my gaze. It wasn't the name that echoed in my thoughts. It was indeed Jake. And I understood that the truth would inevitably seek me out. However, at this moment, for a brief moment more, I decided to remain adrift in the solitary realm where I still sensed the pulse of existence.